Welcome to another exciting episode of Gallery Watch. This is Madeline Page and I will be your new host. We're at the Barassi Fine Arts Gallery for Aleister Crowley's exhibition. So what does it mean to you to have Aleister Crowley's exhibition here in Perth?
It's fascinating, really. It's the very first time that any original work from Aleister Crowley's been shown in Australia, so that's always quite exciting. There's really only a handful of exhibitions that have really ever taken place of Crowley's work. The first was in New York in 1918. Then after that was an exhibition in Berlin in the 1930s, early 1930s. It's obviously a thrill to have it find its way to Australia. So it's been a lot of work to get it here, but it's been great. So very rewarding to see a full room and a lot of interested people, and I'm never sort of short of being amazed by the amount of interest that Crowley seems to generate in people in the general public, and certainly the renewed interest in his work has certainly taken me by surprise. So it's good to see.
There is a lot going on at the exhibition that audience members can look forward to.
Absolutely. The key thing to understand about Crowley's work is that he's really coming at painting from a different perspective to many artists of his age. Remembering that the symbolist movement was sort of kicking off at the close of the 19th century, from the 1890s onwards. You had the Salon of the Rose Croix that was focusing on more, this was in Paris, that was focusing more on the metaphysical side of painting and using painting not as decoration and not as a money-making opportunity. Painting was something which was a spiritual pursuit and could make you a more, how can I put it, a deeper person, a happier person. It was something that really affected you in a deep way, and that's really what those artists were about, and that's what Crowley was using painting for, was part of his personal spiritual practice. And that's why I think it's really worth looking at his work, particularly in the modern age, where art gets pulled from pillar to post with commerce. And there are some fantastic essays written about the art world, particularly by people like Robert Hughes, who really bemoans the concept of art and money, and that money sullies art and art should be more. And you see that concept in Crowley's work. He really embraced that art could be a transformative thing.
How do you expect audience members to react to the artwork?
It's always hard to say. Some people are really drawn to it. Some people understand it immediately. Some people, I think oftentimes it's really how open you are to painting being something more than decoration and what you would traditionally expect painting to achieve. You'll probably get polarized reactions as you do to Crowley in general. You get people that love him and people that hate him and people that are repulsed by it and people that just don't understand it at all. That's just art in general. I get the same response if I show an abstract show or if I show a landscape show. I get the same thing. So, but I'm quite committed to showing esoteric art because I just think it's one of our great forgotten genres.
I'm actually astonished. I've followed Aleister Crowley for 30 years and I've travelled the world to go see his works. I've collected his books, and to actually see Aleister Crowley in my own hometown, I'm absolutely rapt. It's beautiful. I want to buy them all.
What do you think is relevant to the contemporary audience in Aleister's work?
Aleister Crowley was probably the greatest spiritual teacher of the 20th century. A lot of people don't realise that, but he's up there with Gurdjieff, Osho, Rajneesh, a modern day spiritual teacher. And what he believed is that spirituality should not be just abandoned to the afterlife, that it can actually bring you gifts and in fact genius in the current life. And that he wanted to show that. So he followed Nietzsche, and he believed that we could make ourselves supermen. In other words, go beyond the horror of just being human. And in the last 30 years, probably due to the rock movement, the Beatles, Jimmy Page, even David Bowie, Bob Dylan references him, and certainly the beatnik generation, he got brought back into the mainstream culture. And obviously having Aleister Crowley on the front page of Sgt. Pepper is a pretty big gig. So since then, there's actually been 23 biographies written about Aleister Crowley, and most of them have either focused on his mountaineering, his occult life, his chess, but very few on his art. So he got a lot of bad press about being a sex addict, about taking a lot of drugs, and it really smeared his career. Ironically, that's why all those rock icons went back to him. They saw the bad boy, the Byronic bad boy, and they want to emulate it. But in the process, we've all come to realise that he actually had a step-by-step spiritual program where every person, doesn't matter what religion, can actually discipline themselves to unleash the genius within. So we all have a destiny, we all have a purpose. And Aleister Crowley said, this is how I did it, follow me, and you'll unleash the genius in you.
Is it Aleister Crowley's work that you're here to see, or maybe the local artist?
Well, actually, I just joined a friend. I had no idea about tonight, so I'm being very educated, yeah. I didn't realise it was so old, from the 1920s, so yeah, I'm very glad I came, yeah, definitely.
All of them. I think it's fantastic to have the local artists work here, and the combination of the two, I think, is superb. And it's a living tradition that's carrying on from this stuff from the 1920s.
Look, I'm really appreciating some of the local artists as well that have been either referenced or have been influenced by Crowley's work or that style or genre. Particularly the stuff over there, I can't remember the names. There was 4 monks carrying the goat. I really like that work, and the one above it by a local artist. I think it's Nolte. I quite like that one a lot. Yeah. I'll be telling a few friends about this and trying to get back here again. Yeah.
Of local artists joining in the exhibition. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
Yeah, it's an interesting bunch that we've pulled together. They've sort of had a difficult task of trying to recreate the Chamber of Nightmares, which was a room in the Abbey of Thelema, and Crowley painted the walls with specific images that were really designed to challenge the viewer, to open up his mind, and it was all part and parcel of the whole process of the Abbey. And unfortunately, those frescoes have gone; they've fallen apart. And but what does survive are some diary entries and essays by Crowley describing what was actually on the walls and what he was doing, the underlying ideas behind them. So basically, I selected a group of artists that I thought would be up to the task, divided up part of the diaries, and they just went to town with it. And I think some of the results are really fantastic.
And I hear the public is lucky enough to buy one of these pieces.
Yep, everything's for sale, and interestingly, most of the larger works were snapped up sort of way before opening night, and they've gone to a mix of collectors, people who are sometimes first-time collectors, others very, very established collectors, and yeah, I mean they're quite collectible. So there's a range of collectors around the world who have been hunting down everything by Crowley for years, and this is actually the very first time in, I believe, more than 10 years that his work's been available commercially on the market as part of an exhibition. So that's another exciting thing to have.
What would you say to modern and young people coming to see the art exhibition?
I'd probably just say take your time, have a look, have a second look, take an interest in where the works are coming from and the mindset that they're coming from, and because immediately when you see them they're sort of jarring, and they do ask you to sort of, it's hard to just walk past them and say, okay, yep, I see that, it's a beach and it's a sunset, and yep, I see that, that's a tree, and yeah, and you sort of move on, but there's a lot more there to interpret, and so it's that's what I love about the genre. It forces you to actually read a painting, not just look at it. You have to actually engage with the artwork, and that's what good painting should do. At the end of the day, a great painter shows you things that you can't see for yourself, and like, you know, great writers, they can make the invisible things visible. You feel them, you understand what it's about. Great performers do it as well. They just join that link for you and show you things that you just can't see for your, you know, on your own. So I think that these works are a step toward that process. They're certainly painted from that mindset. So they, from the outset, they need to be looked at slightly differently than if you were looking at a red painting to match your couch. It's a whole different sort of viewing experience. So it's worth keeping that in mind for people when they come through.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more Gallery Watch.